This woman is pregnant. So, I'm sorry, but we need to get a divorce. One night, Milton suddenly came home with a woman 21 years younger than him. And she was pregnant. I was in shock and angry, almost losing my mind. Pregnant? Divorce? What are you talking about? I have to take responsibility since she is pregnant, and besides, she's younger. What? Milton's selfish and absurd words made me lose my temper. But Milton's outrageous behavior didn't stop there. He tried to leave our child with me alone. Am I being abandoned? I decided to leave Milton and live with my daughter. My name is Lainey, and I am 45 years old. About 5 years ago, I married Milton, whom I met through a dating app. We had built a happy, if ordinary, family. But a seemingly ordinary life always harbors signs of collapse. Shortly after we got married, Milton changed. He would stay out late drinking every night, showing no interest in our home or raising our child. While he never resorted to violence, his attitude towards me and our daughter Corinne was terrible. At first, I felt lonely, but over time, I grew to accept it. Lainey, I scored over 10 spikes today. Corinne was a wing spiker on her middle school volleyball team. Having performed as well as the team's ace in the tournament qualifiers, Corinne was proud. Wow, that's amazing. Didn't you used to play volleyball too, Lainey? What position did you play? Were you any good? Well, so many questions at once. I was a setter. Not a standout player. I wasn't very tall either. That's not true. As our conversation was getting lively, I heard the front door open. Milton had come home. I'm back. Have you been drinking again? I'm tired from work. What's wrong with having a drink? But it's every night. Shut up. It's none of your business. I swallowed my next words. Milton, loosening his tie, quickly headed to his room. Milton smells like alcohol. Corinne, you shouldn't say that. But it's true. Don't you think so too, Lainey? Well, I was at a loss for words. Hey, why did you marry someone like Milton? You could have found someone better, Lainey. It's not fair to Milton to say that. It's the truth. I'm glad to be your daughter, though. Thank you for saying that. Corinne was very attached to me, despite her attitude towards Milton. Hey, there's not enough hot water. Add more. Milton's arrogant voice echoed from the bathroom. Even his voice sounds drunk and disgusting. Don't say that. I forced a smile. While Milton was in the bath, I hung up his tossed suit and tie. Huh? I felt something strange. His suit had a faint scent of perfume. A sweet, dense fragrance that reminded me of a foreign land. It was a strong, assertive scent, completely different from anything I owned. Could it be another woman? I felt a chill deep in my chest. For a moment, my brain felt numb, and I got dizzy. Milton having an affair? That can't be. Sure, when we first got married, he was still somewhat attractive despite his age. But now, who would be interested in someone like Milton? I brushed away the seeds of suspicion that clouded my heart. Lainey, what's wrong? You look pale. I quickly put on a facade of calm and smiled at Corinne. Oh, it's nothing. Just a bit anemic. I covered my forehead with my right hand to hide my expression. There was no way I could tell my daughter that her father might be cheating. As I was lost in my thoughts, Milton's voice suddenly rang out from the living room. Hey, get that suit cleaned, will you? All right. What? Do you have a problem with that? I give you enough money to live on, don't I? I didn't answer. You're just a part-time worker. What do you know about my struggles? Just do as I say. Just a part-time worker? I'm a qualified nurse. How can you say that? I'm still the one who earns more. What? What do you even do during the day? It's suspicious. I was at a loss for words for a moment, but I couldn't help but voice the doubts swirling in my mind. So, what about you? What are you doing out drinking every night? I noticed, your suit. My suit? Milton looked back at me with a mocking expression, as if he truly didn't understand. But with the tension building between us, I said nothing more. The next day, I went to work at the hospital. Despite being in the middle of the city, I loved this place for its panoramic view. Lainey, good morning. It was my colleague, Pixie. She had been a reliable friend since we started working here. Good morning. What's wrong? You don't look well today. Oh, it's nothing. You don't look like it's nothing. I had a fight with my husband yesterday. Marital spats, huh? Tough. You can always talk to me, Thank you. Pixie had been divorced for about 10 years and worked full-time at the hospital as a single mother. I guess Pixie had her share of troubles too. I admired her for working so bravely without a husband. Is there any point in continuing this cold marriage? I tried to dispel the icy feeling in my chest by looking out at the bright sea beyond the window. The bay was calm, quietly glowing white. I brushed away my worries and headed to work. A week passed. Milton's attitude hadn't changed at all. In fact, our relationship was only getting worse. He still went out drinking every night, and his clothes occasionally smelled of women's perfume. I confronted him about it once, but he just denied everything, leaving me in the dark. If you go to bars, it's possible the scent of the hostesses might cling to your clothes. I had half given up. It's hard to believe now, but before we got married, Milton was a kind and considerate man. He worked as a salesperson at a real estate company in the city. He used to drink for business, but it wasn't as reckless as it is now. Looking back, his meticulous behavior towards others and his tyrannical attitude at home might have been two sides of the same coin. Late that night, around midnight, Milton finally came home. I had gone to bed early since I had work the next day. I had a hunch he would be out drinking again, but I still left a meal on the table for him. Hey, wake up. I'm back. What? At this hour? Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I got out of bed and went to the living room. Huh? There was a young woman I had never seen before. She stood awkwardly behind Milton, but her eyes were boldly scanning our apartment. Lainey, I need to talk to you. Talk about what? Who is this woman? I was so taken aback that I almost collapsed. Milton put his arm around the woman's shoulders and urged her to step forward. This is Ashlyn. We're together. Ashlyn glanced up at me and gave a perfunctory bow. She's pregnant. So, I'm sorry, but we need to get a divorce. I was in shock and angry, almost losing my mind. Ashlyn didn't seem the least bit remorseful and stared at me with a slight smile. Pregnant? Divorce? What are you talking about? I have to take responsibility since she is pregnant. Besides what? She's younger. She's only 25. What? Milton's outrageous and nonsensical words left me speechless. I couldn't find any words to respond. I couldn't keep it a secret any longer. I'm too honest for that. Honest? You planned to keep it a secret until you got caught. I couldn't help but shout, despite the late hour. This situation is partly your fault. My fault? You're becoming more and more like an old lady. You don't take care of yourself. The insult was too much, and I felt tears welling up in my eyes. Are you saying you're any different? While I struggled for words, Milton continued. Besides, we never had children together. I want a child now. I struggled to contain my rising anger. So, please take care of Corinne. What? I can't do that. Why not? You should take care of her. This man has no idea what he's doing. I knew I needed to stay calm and try to reason with him, even if it hurt to bring up Corinne. What are you talking about? Corinne is your daughter. I'm not even legally or biologically related to her. That's true, but I can't raise two children. But you have a legal obligation to take care of Corinne. Who cares? Corinne likes you. There shouldn't be any problem. I was at a loss for words at Milton's selfishness. Milton has changed. The Milton I met was not like this. He always listened to me and put me first. Even when I learned he had a previous marriage and a child, I still wanted to marry him because I truly loved him. I had decided to accept him and his child no matter what. But now, I felt everything I had tried so hard to protect was falling apart. You said you wanted to protect Corinne and me, and that we would be happy together. Milton didn't respond. Despite his terrible behavior and how much he had changed, I had endured because I believed in that promise. Are you serious about this woman? Yes, I am. Please, let's divorce. Milton glanced at Ashlyn and then spoke again. I promised her that I would never see you or Corinne again if we got married. Never see us again? What about Corinne? I don't care. She's not my concern anymore. With that, Milton took Ashlyn and left the house. He said he would stay at her place tonight. I stood there in shock, staring at the door they had just walked out of. Then, I heard a door close from the back of the house. I snapped back to reality. For the first time, I realized Corinne had heard the entire conversation. Corinne? I knocked on Corinne's door. She came out with a pale face. Lainey, am I being abandoned? Corinne, I'm sorry I made you worry. Don't worry. Milton would never do that. At least I won't. I'm glad. But I might not be able to live with Milton anymore. It's okay. I understand. Corinne looked like she was about to cry. It made sense. No matter how reckless and selfish Dad is, he's still Dad. It wouldn't be easy for her to accept this situation. Lainey. What? Don't cry. It was then that I realized I was crying. Tears streamed down my cheeks, flowing endlessly. I couldn't believe it. Milton had suddenly gotten someone pregnant and was now asking me for a divorce. As I covered my face to hide my tears, I felt something touch my cheek. Here, use this. Tentatively, I looked up to see Corinne wiping my face with a towel. When you need to cry, just let it all out. From now on, I'll be here to wipe your tears. She smiled warmly. Corinne, she must be hurting too. Thank you. At that moment, I was deeply grateful for my stepdaughter's presence. Milton didn't come home the next day either. Was he planning to stay away until the divorce was finalized? That's enough. That night, I had a serious talk with Corinne. It was a starless night, the sky eerily lit by the sparkling stars. Usually, the three of us would be together in the living room, but now it was just my stepdaughter and I. Are you really okay with this? I want to live with you, Lainey. I don't mind, but I was still unsure whether I should take Corinne in. I knew she trusted and was fond of me. But Corinne still had Milton's parents, her grandparents, though they were distant. For her, living with relatives might seem more natural than with her stepmother. You know, you could live with your grandparents in the Northeast. But I want to stay with you, Lainey. I understood her feelings. Being sent to live with distant grandparents she hadn't seen in a while would be scary. Thank you for saying that. It makes me happy. You're welcome. It's going to be tough, but let's work together and get through this. Yes. But Corinne seemed to have more to say. I'm tired of my dad too. I want to break away from him completely. I understand. So do I. He's such a terrible father, isn't he? We couldn't help but laugh together. I'm glad I'm not alone. For the first time, I felt that from the bottom of my heart. I didn't have any children. Given my age, I probably wouldn't have any in the future either. Especially not in this situation, but I had Corinne. She was such a strong source of support. I gazed out the window at the clear autumn sky. I quietly watched the fish-scale clouds drift by. 5 years ago, I never imagined I'd be parting ways with Milton like this. That day, Milton finally visited our home after a long time, and we had a discussion with the three of us. I officially decided to divorce Milton. Milton was thrilled by the news, and, fortunately or unfortunately, the divorce proceedings went smoothly. But I wasn't going to just agree to a divorce and cry myself to sleep. I filed for divorce, but of course, Milton and I had conflicting claims, and after a few months, it went to court. To prepare for the trial, I sought help from Milton's colleagues and friends. They were all shocked by my story, but they agreed to help. What? Milton cheated? Divorce? What did he do? Got a woman 25 years younger pregnant and forced his wife to divorce. Everyone was equally astonished by Milton's actions, but they agreed to testify for us. As we gathered support, Milton's reckless and foolish behavior became exposed. There were several occasions when Milton and Ashlyn came to our home to yell at us, but Corinne and I ignored them. Lainey, you told my company, didn't you? I wasn't physically harmed, but I felt a chill when he grabbed me by the collar. But we didn't back down. There were times it almost got the police involved, but with Corinne's help, I managed to get through it. I was amazed by Corinne's intelligence and shrewdness. She had recorded all the conversations between her father and his mistress. Those recordings became crucial evidence in court. As a result, Milton lost his family, job, and friends because of his affair. There were times I felt like giving up, but Corinne always supported me. Milton rarely came to the house, only occasionally to pick up his things. The rift between us was beyond repair. Yet, I sometimes felt an overwhelming sense of emptiness and loneliness. I remembered our small wedding on a little southern island when we first got married. The modest wedding party at a forest chapel. There were certainly bright times between us, and that was an undeniable truth. It was a poignant sorrow that gripped my heart. But it's all over now. I closed the album filled with memories and said goodbye to the past. Thus, we managed to get a divorce with sufficient alimony. The seasons passed, and it was now spring. Corinne and I started a new life with the savings I had accumulated from my work and the alimony. Corinne was now in her 3rd year of middle school. She was already a high school entrance exam candidate. Lainey, I've been thinking. I want to be a nurse like you. Really? I was genuinely surprised. Even after the divorce, I continued to work at the same hospital, but now as a full-time employee to support Corinne and myself. I had become the head nurse of the surgical ward. You don't have to decide that because of me. No, it's not that. I think you're amazing, Lainey. Thank you, that means a lot to me. Meanwhile, Milton and Ashlyn faced a crisis after the divorce. Why did you quit your job? This is unbelievable. This happened because of you, Ashlyn. I can't stand this life anymore. Ashlyn began to cry, holding their baby. Milton had resigned from his job because he felt out of place after the divorce trial. The alimony payments added financial strain. Ashlyn had quit her job at an apparel shop after giving birth and couldn't work satisfactorily due to postpartum issues. They moved from job to job, struggling financially. They still hadn't paid off the alimony from the divorce trial. One day, when Milton returned from a part-time job, he found a note from Ashlyn in the apartment living room. Milton, I'm sorry. Ashlyn and the baby returned to her parents' home and never came back. Milton might have realized his mistakes for the first time then. But it was too late. The setting sun's rays quietly streamed into the living room. Milton stood there, unable to move. Another year passed. I'm home. Lainey, guess what? Something big happened today. Corinne whispered something into my ear, covering her mouth. What? Someone asked you out? Corinne's classmate from middle school, who also went to the same high school, had confessed to her. Corinne had admired him since middle school and had studied hard to get into the same high school. I had met him once at the front door. I'm not sure how to respond. Why? Didn't you like him? I'm scared. Lainey understood Corinne's anxiety. Is it because of Milton? Yes. Logically, I understood. Not all men in the world are like her father, Milton. But falling in love and being loved is scary. You might get hurt, and you might hurt someone else. Corinne's cheeks turned bright red, and she started crying. I like him. But I'm happy and scared. I gently hugged Corinne. I don't regret marrying Milton. What? Yes, he hurt me a lot, and we hurt each other. Yes. But because of that, I met you, and we became like a real family. Corinne nodded quietly. It wasn't all bad. And, never mind. Even though it ended in hatred, there was a time when we truly loved each other. I gently embraced Corinne and then wiped her tears away. You're still young. Don't be afraid to love. Okay. At that moment, the doorbell rang. It was the boy who had confessed to Corinne. Corinne, wipe your tears and go see him. Yes. Not just Corinne, my life is also just beginning. We have just opened the door to a new future.